Hey guys, Renegade here. Welcome to my channel. I've been getting a lot of questions post my last audio podcast with regards to employee rights. What are my rights as an employee? COVID-19 pandemic, all the above. Okay, so I got Haley here. Haley is a labor consultant, and she's here to answer some of those questions. Hi, Haley.
Hi, Carl.
Haley, you heard me. What are my rights? What is this no work, no pay thing all about?
Okay. Thank you, Carl. It's good to be on the show to discuss this, and I think it's very important to get people out there this type of information. With regards to what are your rights as an employee during this pandemic, with regards to the no work, no pay principle, an employer may legally implement the no work, no pay principle during the lockdown.
Okay.
But what I always try to advise and emphasize is to always revert back or refer to the wording of your contract of employment. So have a look at what it says, particularly with regards to, the no work, no pay principle. It cannot be implemented, cannot not, etc., etc., etc. So it always just depends, rather to say that. And then, the reason I say that is because when we say refer to the wording of your contract of employment, there are clauses that does not allow for an employer to lawfully, impose or implement the no work, no pay principle, and that is what we refer to as force majeure.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Sorry, force majeure.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. So this is basically, it's a clause provided so that it's sort of an unforeseeable circumstances, like more nature related, whether it's an act of God or it's a pandemic, for example, like COVID. So it kind of protects an employee from having to, not be paid, like the no work, no pay principle. So if you've got that clause, it's unlikely that your employer would be able to lawfully implement the no work, no pay principle, if there's a particular clause that speaks to that exactly.
All right.
Unless, just to jump in there, Carl, unless you're following the common law principle about performance, where there's a supervening impossibility to perform. And that's a different route altogether. So that is why I advise, we could go back and forth, but always go back to your contract of employment. What does it say? Does it speak about this? If it's there, what is my next step, etc., etc., etc.
All right. And government assistance.
Okay.
Is there such a thing in terms of if you do not qualify or if you get no work, no pay, to compensate you? Sorry, yes, carry on.
Oh, I apologize. And I have to always try and revert to my notes because, as you will know, during the different levels, there's been different restriction regulations.
Oh, yeah, it's always changing.
Exactly. Last week it could have been this law, and then this week it's a different law. So you always got to, be on top of it so that you give the right advice as best, or dispense the accurate and more factual and current information. So forgive me if I refer to my notes now.
That's perfectly fine. I'm referring to my notes as well.
So when you say government assistance, I'm sure it's well known. TERS, which is the acronym for Temporary Employee Relief Scheme.
Okay.
So this is obviously an aid to assist employers to mitigate, the loss in terms of being unable to pay employees salaries and wages.
Okay.
And just to mitigate the current situation, and the stress that we are currently going through right now. And so this is for employers who are unable or under financial stress and unable to pay their employers salaries or wages during the lockdown.
Okay.
So, this, government encourages employers to apply on behalf of their employees, so that obviously this benefit will be paid to the employer, and the employer will then pay to their employees. So when we talk about the government, there's a variety of aid, not a variety, but there is aids and mechanism in place to assist where necessary, or where there's a gap or a shortfall, or where, employers or companies need assistance from, if you are currently on reduced time off or reduced pay, the TERS or the UIF benefit comes into play. So it also helps to subsidize. It's not to compensate or pay the balance or the shortfall of your full salary.
Okay.
You know, so you've got to look at it this way. We're just trying to keep the economy afloat and also to mitigate loss, work loss, job loss. And then, as I said, reduce time off, reduce pay, and then that when it comes into fold. But provided that employees that do apply for this benefit need to prove that their businesses will be closed for the duration of 3 months or less, or closure of part of their business operations. And this is being able to show and prove that they do not have the financial capacity or means, like I said before, to qualify for this benefit.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. There is financial aid.
At least.
At least. Okay, great. And then you mentioned something prior to the interview about an illness benefit. Whereas you contract the virus during employment, there's also some sort of fund where you can apply for. Tell me more about that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Carl, because along with the UIF benefits paying, a percentage towards, employees that are loss of income or etc. There's also the illness benefit. So what this is that if you as an employee were to contract the coronavirus, whilst in the scope of work, in the duration of your employment, you would also qualify for this illness benefit as well. And then we've also got a special illness benefit, and that is if you mandatory quarantine for 14 days. And then there's also hope for private businesses. There's tax subsidies.
Okay.
And then, of course, for small to medium enterprises. And so you've also got a debt relief scheme. You've also got the business growth or resilience scheme. So there are mechanisms and aid in place to sort of rescue and to allow that businesses don't go into a we're just trying to keep the economy afloat.
Yes, naturally.
So there are channels which you can utilize as an employer, as a small business, as, an employee in this current situation.
Oh, brilliant. That's good to know. Okay. Thank you, Hayley. Hayley, as I said, a labor consultant. Her details will be attached below, so if you have any further queries or comments or any questions, she'll be more than happy to oblige.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and take care.